So I got a ton of questions about not only what credit cards to get, but also what order to get them in. So in this video, we're gonna walk through step by step exactly what I would do if I was starting my credit card journey from the very beginning. And this is gonna be a guide for basically the optimal order to get credit cards that anyone can watch, whether you're on Team Travel or Team Cashback, and whether you're starting from absolutely zero or if you already have a few cards in your wallet. Now let's jump right into it here with card number one. So if you're starting from nothing, then this is gonna typically either be a student credit card, a secured credit card, or some other type of starter card. The big problem that a lot of people face at the beginning is that they might not really have any credit history or even a credit score to start with. So their question is usually, how do you get approved for a credit card in the first place when most cards require at least some credit history and a credit score? That's where these starter cards come into play. And the easiest place to begin with these are gonna be student credit cards, which are designed for college students or really anyone else out there who's over the age of 18 and getting some sort of education and is also looking to build their credit from little or nothing. Personally, around 8 years ago, before my junior year of college, I got started with a simple student card from Wells Fargo that didn't really offer much in rewards, and I don't even think it's available anymore. But today there's actually some really great student credit cards that you might want to consider with some pretty good rewards. So for my recommendations, there's gonna be the Discover It Student Cashback Card, which offers 5% back in rotating quarterly categories like groceries, gas stations, restaurants, and more. Plus, it's got no annual fee, and they're even gonna do an unlimited dollar for dollar cashback match at the end of your first year. Or I also really like the no annual fee Chase Freedom Rise, which they even say on their website is best if you're new to credit or a student. This card earns 1.5% cash back on everything in the form of 1.5 Chase Ultimate Rewards points per dollar that can actually be really valuable later on in our journey. Plus, you can also increase your approval odds if it's your first card by having a Chase checking account as well with a balance of at least $250. And for the purposes of this video, getting a Chase credit card like this very early on can actually really help with relationship building, which is gonna be good for getting other Chase cards that we'll talk about in a minute. Now, if for some reason you can't get approved for a student or a starter card, then another option you have here is what's called a secured credit card. And secured credit cards basically just require that you put down a security deposit of maybe a few $100s or so whenever you open up the card. And then that deposit amount is actually what's gonna act here as your credit limit. Now, that security deposit is in place essentially because you might not really have any track record yet of managing a credit card responsibly to prove that you're gonna pay it back on time. Or maybe you're just in the process of rebuilding your credit and you have to get a secured card to help you do that. So whatever your situation is here, if you're struggling to get approved for any other type of starter card, then my recommendation is to choose a secured credit card with no annual fee that also gives you back your deposit after a certain amount of time by graduating you to an unsecured card. And personally, I really like the Discover It Secured or the Capital One Platinum Secured, but there definitely are other options out there as well that anyone should be able to get approved for. Now, if you're starting off your credit journey from zero, then no matter what, definitely make sure you focus on cards that have no annual fee first here. And that's because with your first card, we want to be able to keep that open basically forever to help with our age of credit, which is a factor that affects about 15% of our credit score. And one part of that factor that the credit bureaus look at when calculating your score is going to be the age of your oldest account. So by having no annual fee with your oldest account, that's going to act as sort of a free way to basically boost your score over time very slowly as that account ages. So over your first year, if you're starting from nothing, the goal is to open at least one of the starter cards, establish some sort of credit history, start to build your credit score, familiarize yourself with how the whole billing cycle works, and really just get into the habit of paying off your credit card on time and in full every single month. And you can also open up a second starter credit card if you want to within that first year, but personally, I really think you only have to open one card in year one because the main focus here, more than anything else, is just to get comfortable with using credit responsibly. Now, after year one is really when we can start to dive into the whole strategy of optimizing the best order to get some of the next credit cards here. So anyone can sort of jump into the strategy at this point, as long as you've got a credit score of somewhere around 700 or so, and at least 12 months of credit history with at least one card under your own name. So next, we're gonna focus on adding a few cards while considering a very important concept in the credit card game called the Chase 524 rule. Now, the Chase 524 rule simply states that if you've opened 5 or more personal credit cards across all issuers within the past 24 months, you will automatically be denied for any new Chase credit cards. So for example, if you opened just one starter credit card 12 months ago, then you would be under 524 at 124, or in other words, one new personal card opened up over the past 24 months, and that means you're still eligible to get approved for new Chase credit cards. Now, the reason why this is important here is because there's a lot of value that's basically up for grabs if we prioritize Chase first in the whole credit card game because of this rule. But if we don't prioritize Chase first, then that represents sort of a big opportunity cost of the value that we're gonna miss out on. So to decide the optimal order for getting credit cards next, whenever we wanna go ahead and get another new credit card, we wanna start by asking ourselves, am I under 524? And if the answer is yes, then for the most part, we should focus on Chase cards first until we have all the Chase cards we want. And then after that, we can go ahead and go for cards from other issuers out there. Now, there is another type of credit card that also people should focus on when they're under the 524 rule, which I'm gonna explain as we sort of walk through this stuff here. So let's assume that we're at 124 after opening up one personal credit card, maybe a little over 12 months ago to start our credit journey. So after that, the next card that I would go for is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. So the Freedom Unlimited is just a good overall, no annual fee catch-all card that earns 3x Chase points per dollar on dining and drugstores, and then 1.5x Chase points on all other purchases. And Chase markets this as a cashback card, but you're really earning Chase Ultimate Rewards points. And getting this card in this example here would put us at 224, so still under 524, which means that I would go for another Chase card next. But usually what I like to tell people is that it's good to wait at least 3 months on average in between Chase and even any other credit card applications, and that's for 3 main reasons. First of all, it just helps you to pace yourself and not get overwhelmed with opening up too many cards too quickly. Second of all, it helps give you time to meet minimum spend requirements for welcome bonuses because, for example, the Freedom Unlimited card is going to give you a $200 bonus or really 20,000 Chase points after spending $500 in 3 months. And third, I think that spacing out Chase cards specifically to be at least 3 months apart on average is just going to be good for your overall relationship with Chase because you're going to be less likely to come across as only being in it for the sign-up bonus. What we really want to show Chase here is that we intend to be good long-term customers for them by getting these credit cards sort of the right way. But next here, after the Freedom Unlimited, what I would go for next is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Now the Sapphire Preferred does have a $95 annual fee, but it's also got a really great standard sign-up bonus of 60,000 Chase points after spending $4,000 in 3 months. And this is also going to unlock some really valuable features and benefits for our overall beginner credit card setup here that can sort of help us to decide what direction we want to take our overall strategy later on. So what we can do is we can actually combine the points we've earned from the Freedom Unlimited with the Sapphire Preferred card, and then those points we earned from all those Chase cards can be worth 25% more for travel when booked through Chase by taking advantage of a points boost feature on the Sapphire Preferred. And the easiest way to explain this is that if we took the 20,000 point sign-up bonus over from the Freedom Unlimited card and we just redeemed it for cash back on that card at a value of 1 cent per point, then that would basically be worth $200 of cash back. But if we combine those 20,000 points with the Sapphire Preferred, then we would be able to redeem that for 25% more value towards travel booked through Chase at 1.25 cents per point. So that is going to be worth $250. Similarly, that 60,000 points sign-up bonus from the Sapphire Preferred is going to be worth $600 towards cash back, or it could be worth 25% more or $750 towards travel booked through Chase. So as beginners in the whole credit card game, this is where most people sort of have this big realization about the power of credit card points for travel, which puts them on the path of being on team travel over team cashback. And the best part is that this 25% points boost feature is only the bare minimum here because the Sapphire Preferred also has transfer partners, and that's where you can basically find ways to transfer your points out to airline and hotel programs to get double or even triple the value at 2 to 3 cents per point. So 60,000 Chase points from that sign-up bonus could be worth between $1,200 and $1,800 or even more instead, which is just insane. Now, I've got a brand new full guide on how to redeem Chase points with plenty of examples that's going to be uploaded to my channel over the next week or two. So if you haven't already, make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss that. And also, because my channel has sort of been reaching more and more people over the past few weeks, there's actually less of you watching who are subscribed. So again, make sure to hit that subscribe button because it does help to support the content here on my channel. And also, I've got a ton of more good videos coming up, so I promise you will not regret it. Now, for the next credit card in our optimal order, again, we're still under the Chase 524 rule at 324 now. So after another 3 months or so have passed, then I would go for the no annual fee Chase Freedom Flex. And that's going to complete our Chase trifecta setup, which in my opinion is the best 3 credit card setup right now for beginners because first of all, it's optimizing for the Chase 524 rule in the early credit card game. Plus, it's also very low cost with only the Sapphire Preferred having that $95 annual fee that you can always downgrade away from after 1 year anyway. And it's also just really beginner friendly with good redemption options for either team travel with the whole points boost or transfer partner features, or even team cash back because Chase points are still worth 1 cent per point each for cash back if that's what you prefer. So the Freedom Flex Flex is great because it's going to earn 5x in rotating quarterly categories and up to $1,500 of spending per quarter. Plus, it's also got a nice standard sign-up bonus that's typically for 20,000 points after spending $500 in 3 months as well. So combined, the whole Chase trifecta should allow us to get bonuses that add up to at least 100,000 points in total. And again, for cash back at 1 cent per point, those points are going to be worth around $1,000. Or with transfer partners, those points could be worth at least 2 to 3 cents per point at a minimum, which is going to be worth at least $2,000 to $3,000 for travel. Now, after getting those first 4 credit cards, which includes the Chase trifecta, we're still under 524 at 424, but now that means that if I open another personal credit card from Chase or even any other issuer, that's going to put us at 524 and sort of lock us out from getting any more Chase cards for a period of time until we're back under 524. However, one other type of credit card that for the most part does not count towards your 524 status is going to be business credit cards. So personally, that's what I would go for next in an optimal order. Now, technically, business credit cards are optional, but before you skip ahead and just ignore these business cards, I just want to say that I think that would be a huge mistake because there's so much value that you can get here. And the secret that not many people know about is that a lot of people can actually qualify for business credit cards, so you don't have to run some big corporation just to qualify, because these things are really designed for small businesses and even side hustles. I explained the whole process of how to get approved for business credit cards in another video that I'll link to down below. Basically, long story short is that if you have any type of small business or side hustle, then you're technically eligible. And that can include stuff like driving for Uber or DoorDash, walking dogs, reselling stuff online, teaching music or tutoring, consulting, social media, really just about anything you can think of, because the definition of a business is very, very broad. Now, the reason why most business credit cards do not count towards your 524 status is because they're not really showing up on your personal credit report. And I say most business credit cards here because even though issuers like Chase and American Express do not report business cards to your personal credit, other issuers out there like Capital One typically do. So while I'm at 424 in this example, I would go for Chase business credit cards next here, assuming that I've got some sort of a business that's doing at least maybe a few $1,000s in annual revenue and also has maybe at least a year or so of business history. And the reason why we want to go with Chase cards first here is because, again, they've got some really great value, just like the personal cards. And then we also have the relationship with Chase on the personal side of things. Plus, even though Chase business credit cards don't count towards 524, you still technically do have to be under 524 to get approved for the most part. So for example, I would go for the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited card next here while being at 424. And then if I got approved, I would still be at 424. So then I would just make sure that I hit the minimum spend of $6,000 over the next 3 months to get 75,000 points with that card. And then I'd probably move on to the Chase Inc. Business Cash card after that, which would still keep me at 424 and give me another 75,000 points after that minimum spend. So those are 2 great no annual fee cards that I would definitely consider if you have any type of side hustle or small business that you're running, or even if you're just a sole proprietor without an LLC. Again, you could still qualify for business credit cards. Now, some people have reported that they've been able to get approved for Chase business credit cards while actually being above 524, but I wouldn't always count on that happening here. So we're just gonna play it safe by staying at 424 with those 2 Inc. card applications. And then after that, I would probably also look to get the Chase Inc. Business Preferred card with its 100,000 point offer after spending $8,000 in the first 3 months. Now, up to this point in my example for this video, as long as I've spaced out all my applications by at least 3 months or more on average, then I should be at least 2.5 to 3 years into my whole credit card journey. And that means that by now, my first starter credit card should be over 24 months old, which would put me back down to 324. That's because I only have those 3 personal Chase credit cards along with those 3 Chase business credit cards that don't count towards 524. So next here is where I think people should make the decision to go with either Team Cashback or Team Travel to decide sort of where to go next in their optimal credit card order. So if you find yourself just redeeming for travel with those Chase credit cards, then I would go with Team Travel, or obviously if you're redeeming for cashback, then I would go with Team Cashback. Now, if you're on the cashback path, then the next thing I would do is downgrade the Chase Sapphire Preferred to another discontinued no annual fee Chase card called the Chase Freedom card. And that is only available via downgrades right now, but this card is pretty similar to the Chase Freedom Flex because it's also earning 5x and rotating quarterly categories, but it basically just gives us 2 cards that can earn that 5x on up to $1,500 of spending per quarter on each card for up to $3,000 of 5x spending per quarter, if that makes sense. Then because we're on the cashback path and we're at 324 here, I would go for the Chase Amazon Prime Visa to lock in getting 5% back on Amazon and Whole Whole Foods with that card. And from there, you can pretty much just move on to any other cashback cards from other issuers that fit your top spending categories the best. You could go after a few sign-up bonuses here and there, but honestly, cashback cards have a bit more of a limited upside, so you're typically only going to see bonuses in the range of around $200 or maybe a little more or a little bit less. But then you just want to find cards that earn in the range of 3% to 5% cash back in your different categories. So personally, I would go for the no annual fee Capital One Saver One card for 3% back on dining, entertainment, streaming, and grocery stores, followed by the Amex Blue Cash Everyday for 3% back on gas from US gas stations, US online retail purchases, and groceries from US supermarkets. Then I'd also throw in the City Custom Cash card for 5% back in my highest one spend category across 10 categories. I would probably also get the City Double Cash card to earn 2% cash back on everything as sort of an upgrade from the 1.5% on the Chase Freedom Unlimited. But again, for Team Cash Back, there's just not as many crazy sign-up bonuses or value here compared to optimizing for team travel, which I'm going to finish up with next here. So I would only go down the cashback path if you truly value simplicity and you never really fly anywhere or stay at hotels. Now, if you're on team travel like myself instead, then what I would do, assuming that I'm at 324 and I have my starter card along with those 3 personal Chase Trifecta cards and the 3 Chase Ink cards, is I would look through the hotel and airline cards offered by Chase Next. And I would look specifically for cards that fit with the airlines and hotels that I use the most, and or credit cards that offer the best limited time deals. So for example, personally, I would look at the Chase World of Hyatt card because Hyatt is my hotel of choice and there's a slightly elevated offer going on right now. But I'd also look at the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless card because there's a really good limited time deal for 5 free nights after spending $5,000 in 3 months. So I'd basically consider getting both those cards over the next 3 to 6 months to round out my 524 status. And after that, or if nothing else seems appealing to me, only then would I move over to other issuers. For optimization, I would go with the Capital One Venture X next because Capital One can be really tough when it comes to approving people if they're a little bit too deep into the whole credit card game with too many active accounts on their credit report. And of course, I would know about this firsthand because I actually got denied with the Venture X twice last year, which are my only 2 ever credit card denials. So while we're still very early in the credit card game, I would definitely go with the Venture X next because it's got a great 75,000 mile offer after spending $4,000 in 3 months. And it just acts as a great overall travel card with its benefits, but you can learn more about that card over in the full review video I did that I'll link down below. After that, I would ask yourself, do you want to go for the Capital One Duo setup? And if you do, then I would wait 6 months after getting the Venture X and then go for the no annual fee Saver One card next because Capital One has a 1/6 rule where typically they're only going to approve you for 1 card every 6 months. But the Saver One card is great when it's paired with the Venture X because the cashback that it earns can be converted into much more valuable Capital One miles that can then be redeemed for more value towards travel. So you could get a 20,000 mile sign-up bonus plus 3x miles per dollar on dining, entertainment, streaming, and groceries. After that, you can start to explore some other issuers out there and really look at what fits best in your overall lifestyle and your spending habits. So for me, I'd probably still look to get a new card every 3 months or so, which is gonna allow me to constantly have a minimum spend to be working on for a sign-up bonus. And that's really how to get ahead very fast in the credit card game because sign-up bonuses are truly gonna give you the highest return on spend compared to just standard spending multipliers. But at the same time, you also wanna make sure you're being self-aware and not getting too many credit cards too quickly. So if things start to feel disorganized, then definitely make sure you start to slow down. Now, personally, I would start to explore American Express cards next at this point in my journey. And some people might disagree with this and say to go for the Amex cards even much later on in your journey, which I totally understand. But for me and for many other people out there, Amex cards are just gonna be very valuable if you're somebody that travels a lot, which is why they've basically been a big part of my setup for a while. So I would go for the Amex Gold card next if that card makes sense for you with the Uber and dining credits it has. And then after that, I would go for the Amex Platinum card, which sort of has become this must-have card for people that are frequent travelers. The reason you wanna go for the Gold card first and then the Platinum is because American Express recently added language to the terms and conditions where you might not be eligible to receive a welcome offer on the Amex Gold card if you've already had an Amex Platinum card. So because of this, if we want to optimize with American Express right now, then it's going to be best to go for the Gold to take advantage of the sign-up bonus on that card. And then of course we can go for the Platinum to get the sign-up bonus over there as well. Amex also has a once per lifetime rule where you're only able to get 1 sign-up bonus on each Amex card in your life. So make sure you do some research and only get these cards if you really see a very good offer out there because we want to get as much value with these offers as possible. From there, you can also get the Built Master MasterCard if you're a renter, so you can start earning points on rent because that's a new favorite of mine. You can also look at Citi cards with the Citi trifecta, including the Premier card, the Custom Cash, and the Double Cash. But at this point in the credit card game, I would really just constantly keep an eye out for any limited time offers out there for credit cards that make sense for you. Now, honestly, even though this might be an optimal path for this video, it's not exactly the path that I followed, and you could definitely make changes in this order if you want to. So maybe some of you won't get business cards, and maybe some others out there just won't go for the high annual fee cards. And that's okay, because this video is really just meant to be something that sort of helps with ideas. And of course, everyone's journey is going to be just a little bit different. But one big thing that you have to keep in mind, no matter what path you take, is that you need to maintain a good credit score throughout this whole process for any of this stuff to work, because that's going to give you the best approval odds when you apply for new cards. There's actually a ton of common mistakes that people, including myself, have made, which causes them to kill their credit scores over time. So I explain how you can actually avoid those mistakes in this video over here on the screen next, that you should definitely go ahead and check out. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.